Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm going to endorse the book Boys of 67 by Dr. Andrew Wiest. He's a professor of military history at the University of Southern Mississippi with special emphasis on World War I and the Vietnam War. And the Boys of 67 is about the Vietnam War. It's about people from Charlie Company of the 47th Infantry Regiment, the 9th Infantry Division. Okay? And the Boys of Charlie Company, they were a 99% draftee unit, but morale was very high for the Boys of Charlie Company, and whether they believed in the Vietnam War or not, they were anxious to do their duty. They didn't resist getting drafted. They didn't burn their draft cards or anything like that. And 99% of Charlie Company was drafted. The lone enlistee of Charlie Company was John Young. He was from Minnesota. And John Young and Dr. Andrew Wiest are friends, and they have done lots of lectures together. I personally have attended one of them. It was a lecture open to the public. And John Young came down with PTSD, and this was before he came down with PTSD before he knew Dr. Wiest. Dr. Wiest was doing some research on PTSD, and he called a PTSD clinic in Mississippi, and that's how him and John Young first met. And John Young had lectured to his class, and John Young, all of a sudden, when they were watching a video or clip of the Vietnam War, he yelled, "Get down," and he ducked, and his head hit the concrete floor. But that didn't diminish John Young from going in and continue doing guest lectures and talking to people about his experience in the Vietnam War and things of that nature. So I commend John Young for all he does and all he has done. And the book goes into details. It does talk about the battles and the engagements of the guys, but it really talks about the guys as people, and it really talks about what the draftees went through before they got drafted, when they got drafted, when they were going through boot camp, or basic training. The Army calls it basic training, when they were going through basic training. And it's a very good book. You would not put it down. It really shows the human side of these soldiers, and it shows what all they went through. So I highly recommend the book. I don't want to talk too much about the book because I don't want to give it away. But one of the guys that registered with me was Willie McTeer, because my hometown originally is Vicksburg, Mississippi. Well, Willie McTeer didn't grow up too far from there. He grew up in Newellton, Louisiana, which is about 22 to 25 miles from my home. And he's an African-American soldier. And he had, when he returned from the Vietnam War, he had gotten messed up with drugs and substance abuse, but he had cleaned up, and then he had dedicated his life to helping other veterans who were going through what he went through, or to keep them from going through what he went through. So I highly respected that. And when he was in Newellton, Louisiana, had been arrested by cops just because of his skin color. I mean, it's obviously something I never had to go through. But despite that, he still felt like he needed to go to Vietnam and do his service for his country, which that's a lot of bravery. His father was a logger. His father wanted him to work in the logging business, but Willie McTeer had valued education, and actually he was studying, taking college classes in Las Vegas when he got his draft card in the mail. So God bless the Vietnam veterans of Charlie Company, 99% draftee unit, and only 4% of Charlie Company came from upper class backgrounds. Most came from middle class or lower middle class backgrounds. Some of them came from Cleveland, Ohio. Some came from the west coast of California. It was all over the United States. And there were some racial tension, but racial tension was very minimal in that unit. Willie McTeer actually did, because he grew up in Newellton, Louisiana, during the 1950s and the 60s. He didn't know how he was going to interact with the white soldiers, but he had saw how the white soldiers welcomed him, and he was able to get along with the white soldiers very quickly and very easily, much to his surprise. So I highly encourage people to read the book. And anyways, hope everyone's doing well. Take care. God bless them. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.